Thank you from all three groups. There was obviously a lot of overlap between the discussions that happened, but I think there are several points that become clear. As many people as stayed with us this morning and thought about the possibilities, you all thought about many people who weren't in the room. And we kept hearing over and over again the problems of transportation in the state of Maine, including educational institutions, looking at different professional groups from CPAs to attorneys to doctors' offices. Again, there is this bridge to be connected between what are traditionally people who help others with savings and asset building, and then the connection to be made to people with disabilities, disability-related organizations, and as several of the groups pointed out, the connection again, as Avery, you said, to the low-income community, people with and sometimes without disabilities. So we have this extraordinary opportunity to look at what started here can continue. I think all three groups said very clearly what there has to be is a kind of organized, coordinating body or group that is going to meet on a regular basis, that needs to touch as many as the people who are here today, but also touch many of the people who were not here and bring them into this conversation and get them excited too about the possibilities. As the last group talked about, it is about personal stories, and there are more personal stories to be captured, to be shared with others, and use every type of media outlet possible. The new media of YouTube and social networks, but the existing media, your local papers, local television stations, the materials that are handed out in the one-stop centers, the materials that are handed out at a bank when customers come in, materials that are at the front door of every community service organization. But clearly what we don't have yet, and all the three groups talked about, is the putting together of a package of materials that is understandable to the potential end user of those materials, people with disabilities. And whether it is a one-pager, or it's a notebook, or it's a website, or it's all of the above. As was mentioned by one of the panelists, this is a great place to expand United Way's reach with 211 in terms of being up to date and having in one place for anyone to call, hopefully anywhere in the state, toll-free, free line, to find out, well, where can I learn more about asset building? Who do I talk to? What organizations will open their doors to me? What we're going to see, and hopefully this will be the beginning of a real burst of energy around the working group that will be formed, and that these ideas will move forward from just concepts to actually action steps and actions and activities that involve many people. I think I heard all three groups also talk about there's so much we don't know, or even as we become aware of some of these new ideas, I don't know how they fit together. And as we heard, whether it's the Kenzie story or it's other stories that were presented here today, is you know that there are different pathways to be discovered, but we're going to have to learn more about each other and what we do. The Disability Employment Initiative, which has come to Maine, and for those of you who are less familiar with it, is the newest effort by the U.S. Department of Labor to bring the many resources and communities together to support employment outcomes and advance economic self-sufficiency. Maine is one of 9 states in the country that was funded this past year. And this grant will continue for 2 more years. So you really have an opportunity to think about how this Disability Employment Initiative can build on the kinds of thoughts, kinds of ideas that each of you contributed to each of the 3 work groups, and think about, hey, I want to be a part of that work group. I want to see that it meets regularly. I want to sponsor a financial education class, or I want to make sure that those resource materials all come together and are handed out and made available to people in many, many different places across the community. I think all those things are possible. There was nothing here that I heard that said, well, we need hundreds of thousands of dollars to implement these action steps. You really don't. What it is about talking to each other, getting to know each other better, building on those relationships. And as I said this morning, from the banks to the community-based groups to the workforce investment system, how do we work better together, and by working better together, produce even better outcomes for people with disabilities? More people in the workforce, more opportunities for saving, more opportunities to build assets, and really think in a very deliberative way of planning for an economic future that improves quality of life beyond not just today and next week and next month, but thinking longer term. With the Disability Employment Initiative, you have the opportunity to really lead the nation. No matter what else you do, you're going to be on the U.S. Department of Labor website. And these videotapes will be edited and will become available not just to people here in Maine, but to people all across the country. We'll let you know about when those get put online, how you can access them. But what I really hope is that the stories that come from here will continue, and we find ways to continue to add to what was taped here today and the presentations and the group discussion. Because you have something that I must say really, as not being a native of this part of the country, but spending many a time and having many relatives in the New England states, is there's something to be said for your persistence, your independence, your free spirit that should drive this type of initiative forward. I think that what you do will really help shape what's going on in the other 8 states that are part of the Disability Employment Initiative. And in the next 2 months, the Department of Labor is going to add additional states. And the year after this, they're going to add additional states. So you really can be pioneers in creating these pathways, creating these relationships, helping educate the asset building community, helping educate the disability community, and really having more stories that can go mainstream and can be shared with others who give other people ideas of, why didn't I think of that? I know someone who could really benefit from that program or that strategy or that tool. So let me end by thanking all of you for staying here this morning. Your participation, your input, your enthusiasm is going to help us move forward and build a better economic future for people in Maine and across the country with disabilities. Many of the things we learn here are strategies and tools which will also help guide people without disabilities. We'll learn from each other. And I think that's really a great strength of this set of tools and strategies. Thank you so much.